Let's see. Check. Check. Where'd my mouse go? There we go. Well, here we are. Just the three of us. YouTube is down again. It's been wonky this morning. Restream changed their stuff. Should be back up now, I think. Yeah. Should be good. I, curiously enough, in the middle of the night, got bumped off of Facebook and then just could not get back online at all. Now I think we're on Facebook, right? Things will be back. And I got to tell you, I am more committed than ever to why I did this show and why I'll continue to do this show. And there's a couple of reasons. If you'll recall, this show was born out of the pandemic. And I decided after I came back from China and I saw COVID coming our way that it was going to be bad. It was going to be horrifically bad. And nobody had a grasp of how bad it would be. And I had seen a lot of the initial signs while I was in China doing a TV show. I was hosting a show there. And I mean, it's just obvious everywhere. It was just, it was gonna, and there's no way to trap something that kind of awful, right? And so it was coming our way. So when they started talking about it coming over here and Trump trying to like pretend it wasn't anything for a while, and then then it dawned on him. And suddenly he was like, they're working on 14 days to stop the spread. Remember that shit? Okay. So when that happened, Summer and I were in, I was in Vegas when they announced it, and because it was sort of happening all around, and I decided to go. I'm like, okay, if we're gonna lock down starting on Monday, to for stop the spread and whatever. And we'll get to Tim Miller and some of the other stuff because it's a conversation worth having. About how we talk and why we talk. And you guys will notice if you're a regular viewer of this show that how we say things is very important. But we'll get to that in a second. So anyways, I drove to LA to get a bunch of stuff, clothing and stuff that I would need, because Summer and I were splitting our time and I was, back and forth to LA and all that kind of stuff. I'm still registered to vote there, not here, that kind of stuff. So anyways, I got in my car and I drove to LA to get a bunch of my shit together, and I put it in my truck and I started driving back. And I don't remember if it was like right before I had left. I think so. Oh, the Major shouldn't be on eCam. He should be on VDO. Sorry, Andrea. I'm back in the normal studio setup. Beg your pardon. Can you send him that link again? As a matter of fact, I'll make sure you get the right one. I think it's the same one as usual. Beg your pardon. So if you want to send him over there, that's my fault. I thought it was relatively self-evident that I was back on the regular setup in here. So yeah, the Major will be joining us in a minute. I'm sure he'll have a thing or two to say, and Philip as well. And I have my own reasons to believe that this is going to be a very busy two months. But so I'm driving back, and I can't remember if I got, because it's not like I drive and do WeChat at the same time. But I'd gotten a message from a friend of mine who I'd worked with, one of our people that was on production in China. And it was very clear that they were, and I will say they because I don't want to say whether it's a he or she, they were, they had lost some people around them. Quite a few, quickly. They'd lost 8 or 10 people that they knew in very short order. And in a country of allegedly 1.4 billion people, which it doesn't have at all, it has about 1.2 initially, and it probably is closer to 800 million on its way down. How can you act not concerned? Because how I act won't mend or work, won't fix anything. So I stay stoically optimistic through all this stuff because it's how I operate. It's part of being a comedian, and it's part of what's got me this far. So let's continue the story. So on my drive back, I was overwhelmed in that moment, and I'm sure some of you can probably relate to this, with the horror of what was coming, because I knew it was going to spread to the United States. I knew, and Trump was president at the time. We were headed into a recession at the beginning of 2020 anyways, because of his tax cut and a bunch of other shit, right? And on my drive back, I was just overwhelmed with sorrow in that moment, because I knew that I probably, and I've never seen that person again who I was talking to, okay? I've never spoken to them again. They are, insofar as I know, dead. I have no way of, the other thing is they could reach, I mean, they couldn't reach me if they wanted to, because I'm sort of persona non grata with that government right now, okay? So anyways, so I'm driving back, and I'm just kind of struck by what I know is coming. And I pull over on the side of the road, and I bawled my eyes out. I sobbed painfully, because I knew this would mean the death of tens of millions of people. Just knew it. And you know how you get to that point where you just you kind of purge all that? I mean, it was like a heavy sob. I was alone in my car, just crying, because it wasn't about what had happened. Sometimes you cry or you react to something that's happened. And sometimes, like I think a lot of people are feeling right now, you're reacting to what could happen or what you believe will happen. Okay? And in terms of COVID, there was no if. You know what I mean? There's a lot of moving factors in whether or not, you know, Trump will be able to pull off a lot of the shit he wants to do, or whether he was bullshitting or any of that stuff, and the problems he'll have with his own side if he tries to pull it off, and if he chips into their, you know, financial well-being, all that kind of stuff. That's a lot of moving parts that are maybes. But when it came to COVID, it was inevitable, right? And we'll get to all the other stuff in a minute, and the major will come on, and I have no doubt we will do an unpacking of this. And there's definitely enough criticism to go around, and a lot of hinky stuff about the elections that I have no problem discussing. But once I was done crying, once the sobbing had stopped, because I was just aware that I was never going to see this person again, more than likely, and probably not anybody close to them that I had even met, their family, and I have not. It has been 4 years, essentially. And those people are, for all practical purposes, gone from this earth. And I, like a lot of other people, I lost, 7 people during COVID. 5 from illness, and 2 from, one extracted themselves from this earth by their own hand, and the other died of an overdose. And so 2020 especially, when I started the show, it was like a premonition that I'd had, and I just let it pour out of me on the side of the road in my car, crying my eyes out. And then, as soon as I was done, I was overwhelmed with this kind of inner voice, which I recognize as my own. It is not a voice from God or some secondary thing that was like, okay, what now? Okay, what now? And I was like, okay, what can I do? I know this is coming. I know this is going to be rough. So what can I do to contribute? And I started this show. And I'm not ending it, by the way. This is not a sign off by any fucking means, so don't even go there. But I was like, as a comedian and as somebody who has dealt with, what I dealt with during that time, and there's the major in the background. I will bring him in just 1 second. In dealing with this kind of stuff, hold on, let me jump in here. My stuff is all over the place. There's Cliff's thing. There we go. And that I decided my contribution will come naturally from what I do for a living, which is being a comedian, being smart as best I can, keeping as much information in my head as possible, and trying to move everybody forward. And speaking of moving everybody forward, ladies and gentlemen, the major joins us right now. First of all, I want to ask you how you are, because I think we're all pissed and everybody's dealing with that shit and blah, blah, blah. But I will say this. I'll let you purge for a second. But what I was saying is that I found a way in this show to contribute, to make sure that I was keeping people, focused and laughing and aware that this too shall pass and this will not kill you. And there's a lot to learn from this, and you shouldn't be afraid of your own limitations in any of these situations. And so all of those things mattered. And I feel like I've, that's been the value of it. And I'm going to keep doing this, even if Trump, thinks he's going to throw people like me in a fucking gulag. I'm going to be hilarious at his expense for the next year and a half until he has an ischemic stroke or falls down a flight of stairs because because JD Vance said after you, and JD Vance has to face a midterm, and beyond that, I'm just going to fearlessly. If people need to pull back and they're afraid and they only want to watch, they don't want to subscribe, and they're afraid of putting their name on shit and all that kind of stuff, knock yourself out. I'm giving you total permission to view this from the safety of the warm side of a bay window. I myself am committed to who I am and what I do. And I'm not going anywhere. And I will be annoyingly hilarious in dealing with this dipshit until he skulks away into the fucking sunset and we deal with whoever's next on the list of these folks. And there's and I gotta say, there's 2 months between now and the election, and there's a lot of things that I'm worried about, and I think the current sitting president will take, I believe, steps to shore up as much as he can. Around this. So, Major, welcome. I'm sure you hated last night as much as anybody did. Your thoughts, your feelings on this, your reaction to the post-mortem that's going on this morning?
I think I am so disappointed in America. Mm-hmm. I'm so disappointed in the people out there that don't even realize they're too damn lazy to pay attention to what the hell's really going on. Mm-hmm. I'm absolutely I'm taken back, but I'm like you. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to be louder. I had a conversation today with some folks that I work with, and we decided we're going to be louder. We're going to get out. We're going to do videos. We're going to do interviews. Yep. We're going to start being louder because I don't give a shit. You know what?
Right.
And it's what gets me is I spoke.
That's right.
I have spoke to a few people this morning already, and I don't give a shit. I'll call you out if I see you. Oh, truck train, woo woo. I write them. Say, excuse me, you voted for that person? And what kills me is the laziness. The laziness. Now, I happen to come from Logan County, West Virginia. You come from Eastern Kentucky, and we got some laziness in those areas right there. But make no mistake about it. You ask them. I spoke to 2 nurses today, and I was like, you don't with daughters, by the way. Right. I said they just stole your daughter's reproductive rights, and you allowed it. And I said, Project 2025 is going to hurt you. And they said, well, what's that? What's that?
Right.
I'm so sick and tired of stupidity, and stupidity wins. And I'm tired of the friggin' Democratic Party. Jamie Harrison is the friggin' leader of the DNC. The guy is absolute worthless. He's worthless. He couldn't beat daggone Lindsey Graham, and he had $170 million behind him. But they give him the DNC. I mean, what? Until the Democrats learn how to fight until the Democrats take off the goddamn gloves and start getting in there and are willing to gouge eyes and bite off a fucking nose, then shut up, because they ain't doing a damn thing. We're getting our asses handed to us by the worst people ever. Donald Trump won. You know what? Friggin' integrity lost. Friggin', honesty was killed last night. And people stood for this shit. Women should have been absolutely in solidarity, fighting for their rights. And women got into the polling station and voted against their own damn self-interest. Let me tell you something. This is going to be what we're going to hear. We're going to see these people when their little friggin' daughter gets friggin' impregnated. And make no mistake about it. I love it how so many people go, well, my daughter ain't that way. Hey, motherfucker. Think back to when you were in high school. Everybody was that way. We were all little fucking machines is what everybody was. And that's an absolute fact that everybody's like that. So make no mistake about it. Don't act like it don't pertain to you because your daughter's a good little girl that goes to Sunday school. You know? Yep. You might want to check your daggone daughter's Sunday school friggin' youth counselor.
Well, So unfortunately, a lot of these people are on the FAFO education track, and they don't care until it hits them, right? Yeah. And when you have somebody like Rogan popping up on Monday night, you talk about like the Latino male vote that pushed her over the edge in a bunch of these areas, like came out for Trump in a big way, and never mind the baseline misogyny of that particular group's issue with women in charge. We'll put that aside for 1 second, and the anti-gay aspect of it. But a lot of that window of guys are UFC fans who watch Rogan, and so he comes out and he puts his thumb on the scale for those folks, right, and gets them over the line. And they don't. There's a group of like hardcore Catholics in that area, or hyper religious, or evangelical, or I don't know if there's a variation of just kind of evangelical or Baptist, that if a girl gets pregnant, you shun her. They want to go back to that level of shit. That's they think that's how things should have been. We went wrong when we tried to fix it, and the problem is it's been so long they forgot the humanity of why we fixed those things. They just balloon it up because they haven't experienced it, and in large part they're not going to. These guys are not going to be the ones that experience the awful from this. The problem is the blowback on it is going to cost lives, and this is the same shit that happened with Trump's mishandling of COVID. That cost hundreds of thousands of lives, and what's going to happen is that maggots are going to have to watch 10,000 women bleed to death or die before they go, oh fuck, maybe they stopped that for a reason. Maybe, okay, now I get it. But they're gonna request a human sacrifice to learn that lesson again, because they never experienced it. They grew up without it. And you got a lot of youth vote in this that are troll voting or Twitter voting effectively, that are showing up and meme voting in this because they have no attachment to the legal ramifications of it. This is why, by the way, only Democrats motivate the youth vote. Only Democrats talk about this every fucking time. We got to get the youth vote. We got to get the youth vote. We got to get the youth vote. And my thing is, there is no youth vote because it's a different group of people every time. You can talk about senior citizens because once somebody hits 65, they're a senior citizen until they ain't. You can talk about, right? You can talk about the middle class. That's a financial block. People are in that. They don't pass through it and out. They get in and they try to stay there. And that is an active block of people that you talk to. The youth vote is a fucking conveyor belt. It's just a different thing falling off the line every 4 years. It just is different. And if you don't pay attention to, or you act like the last group is this group, which is what a lot of this, the issue with this youth vote was, that this is not the same fucking youngins that voted in 2020. And it's not the same youngins that voted in, it's closer to a redux of the 2016 youngin vote that against Hillary. Now, I'm always one like fucking. There's a picture here. Let me show this to you. This is one of my favorite. Go ahead, real quick.
Let me say this. Joe Rogan's not going to buy anybody's groceries. That's the thing.
Well, and his daughters are going to fly out of state if they need an abortion. That's the other thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the thing, is that the people that are going to be hurt the worst in all of this are these poor Trump supporters. They don't even realize it. They're the ones that are going to be friggin' hurt. When they do away with NOAA and we no longer know the exact path of a storm and it swings through and destroys your area, and oh, by the way, they've also killed FEMA, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are we going to rely on thoughts and prayers? Because that's what's going to happen. That's going to be the next block. Oh, she died because she was pregnant and she was having a miscarriage, and no doctor would touch her because he had fear that he would or she would lose their ability to practice medicine. So, thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. Good.
I would argue. It's even worse than that in terms of the Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and the kind of the positive eugenics movement around them, that there's just too many fucking poor people being born. And if you talk about an ectopic pregnancy or a pregnancy gone wrong and a failed abortion or what have you, poor women are just going to either stop reproducing because they're afraid if something bad goes wrong, if they start to miscarry, they're just going to die. So they're going to do everything they can to not get pregnant. And if they do, more than likely they'll do the kind of stuff that makes it so you can't have kids anymore. In these cases, and rich kids will just go off and have an abortion and then wait and have a kid with somebody who's of quality later on, which is what they had in the fucking 30s, and that's what that's what they want to bring back. These guys are looking for a passive eugenics for poor people, and that's Elon Musk is talking about that. Look, it took one conversation with Trump has always talked about coming from a line of good genes and shit like that, right? He's talked about that throughout his life, little thread. But it took one conversation with Elon Musk, one lunch, and he said it at every rally after. Fast racehorses produced fast racehorses, and my Uncle John's a genius. And it just was one after the other. That's a window not into how Trump thinks, because we've always known he's a dipshit. It's a window into how Elon Musk thinks, and how Peter Thiel thinks, and how Glenn Greenwald thinks, and this weird, Putin adjacent crowd that looks at Putin as this kind of tangential, more than Trump, a tangential Hitler character that they can follow, who's strong and will get rid of all the poor people, the useless eaters, and all that kind of shit. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, I think that Ukraine had better turn it on. They had better do everything in their power, everything that they got. They better start slamming into Russia. Because make no mistake about it, everything's going to come to a screeching halt on January the 20th. That's what's going to happen. Donald Trump is going to stop the funding going to Ukraine. And it wouldn't surprise me if he don't send friggin' troops to go fight for Russia. Because once again, everybody should know that's what Donald Trump don't respect anybody except dictators. We're getting ready to go into that. We're going into that.
Hold on, I'm taking this off real quick. I just want to show you something. This is there you go, Major. This is one of my favorite pictures, and I have it on the desktop of my iPad because I'm always dealing with it always feels like Sisyphus sometimes dealing with the Trumpians the entire time I've been doing the show. And this is the picture in the movie Endgame. That's Captain America by himself. Everybody else is dead or unconscious. He's got a broken arm and a broken leg. He's got half a shield lashed to his arm, using it as a splint. And this is Thanos' entire army. And I find myself, I got a print of this, and I have it on a wall in my house. And I look at it every day as I walk down this hallway to come to do this show. And there are days when I'm, because I have to be, not just talk about this shit, but I got to be funny and entertaining on top of it. There's extra work involved or whatever. And it's difficult work some days, just in general. Not just today. I mean, just fucking years of this, right? I've been doing it since lockdown. And it's a reminder that this is the spirit. That in this situation, you fucking get up and you start moving forward. You take another step. And that's all it takes. You keep at it. And that's the thing they don't count on. They really don't. They feel like you're just going to drop and I'm not going to do it. Never going to. And it has inspired me through this, in doing the show this whole time. And it will continue to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, we're not going to stop. We can't stop. I just,
No.
it bothers me that so many people were willing to, it bothered me that there were a lot of lazy people out there that did no research whatsoever. And they're the ones that are like, well, what's Project 2025? That bothers me. It bothers me that so many people have, given away their rights, and it's not going to benefit them. These poor people in West Virginia are going to be the ones that are going to be screaming the loudest. And the thing about it is I don't want to be able to go, told you so.
Right. But that's our problem. That's always been our issue. Right. That's always been the issue with our side, is that if you care, the other side has leverage. To use another superhero pop culture reference, one of the biggest parts of I think it was Superman 2, where Zod goes, I found his weakness. He actually cares about these people. And that is the position we're in. And it's way fucking harder. If you're Vladimir Putin and everybody is collateral damage that ain't you, or you're Donald Trump and their family, and you're trying to establish your own little fiefdom monarchy, and all that shit, you don't care. We do. And the weight of caring about other people is a lot, and we always carry it with us. It's why you hear everybody talking about exhaustion in all of this shit, right? It's why you hear our side always talking about, I'm fucking tired, I'm exhausted, but the other side isn't. They're always angry. There's a difference, because they don't suffer for the people that they care about. They're just pissed. And that's invigorating. Anger is invigorating. And I would like to remind everybody, and Major, you and I are both good at being pissed, but sorrow on the emotional ladder, sorrow, depression, sadness is below anger. And you got to get up into your anger to get through that to your focused control of yourself. You can't avoid it. And we have avoided, I think, some of the anger for a long time, because we care about the people on the receiving end of all these things, because we are by definition the side that gives a shit, right?
Yeah, you're right. But I'm going to tell you another thing too. I don't want to hear somebody, and I'm sorry, I don't care. I'm tired of hearing, well, hey, God's got this. God's got this. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. Because what? If God actually cared about, then we wouldn't be going through this shit. We wouldn't literally have the fucking Antichrist running the goddamn world right now. So I don't want to hear that God's got this. If God actually has this, then we wouldn't be going through this garbage. I'm just so sick and tired of people taking friggin', the easy way out. People friggin' failed. Our country failed itself. The women in this country failed itself. The men in this country failed. The fathers in this country failed. Unions are going to get fucked. Workers are going to get fucked. And I don't want to hear you crying when you find out. I tell you what, Frontier Communications. It's all over North Carolina, West Virginia, these places. Let me tell you something. Those people rely on overtime. They rely on it. That's going to go away. And all you fucking daggone, Frontier workers that voted for Donald Trump, you voted for him to cut your fucking throat. And I don't want to hear not one of you motherfuckers say that freaking daggone you got screwed over, because you did it to yourself. Same thing. All these daggone women out here. I'm going to ask people. I'm going to start saying, how'd you vote? How'd you vote? Before you tell me shit's fucked up, how'd you vote? Because let me tell you something. If these fucking dumbasses think that the moment that Donald Trump steps up on day one, that the fucking prices and everything's going to drop to fucking nothing. 25 cents a gallon.
We can fix it so quick. We can fix it so quickly. It'll happen so fast. It'll happen so fast.
Donald Trump said, within the first 24 hours, I can mark my words. He ain't going to do jack shit in his first 24 hours, or the first 48 hours, or the first month, 6 months, year, 2 year, 4 year. He ain't going to do a goddamn thing. Donald Trump talks a good game. He'll probably still travel around the damn country and give these goddamn rallies, because that's what he fucking likes. And he ain't going to do, he won't work for the people, but he'll do fucking rallies. But, once again, but guess what, folks? What happened now, we're not just getting fucking Donald Trump. We're getting fucking RFK Jr. could potentially be in charge of fucking healthcare in America. You poor bastards, when you fucking on your deathbed, that's the fucking face you're going to see.
So today, So today, I saw an interview with RFK Jr. where he's like, I'm not going to take anybody's vaccines away. Like, suddenly the dog realizes they've caught the car, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. Because he's never, first of all, he's not going to be fucking HHS secretary. He'll never get, like, I don't see that happening. I mean, I've been wrong in this business. The idea that Latino men would show up in droves for mass deportation is an outlier. I honestly, maybe I could have seen it coming, but I put it out of my mind because I fucking think that's insane. And so there are certain insane thoughts that I bat away because I'm like, that's just nuts. And it ended up happening. And I've talked on this show many times about the Latinos like Rubio and some of the Cubans in Florida that vote for Trump and all that kind of stuff, who are the ladder immigrants. They pull up the ladder behind them. I'm in the lifeboat, fuck you. And that is a consistent voting bloc that, ironically, as Trump's crowd has vilified Hispanics and Latinos in this country, they have grown precipitously. Remember, let's be abundantly clear. What was the Democratic Party and Democrats crowing about? Well, I would argue in the lead up to 2015, 2016, how America's going to become a majority minority country, and that whites are going to become a minority in the country, which is not how you read it. A majority minority means there are more different minorities than there are the one big group. So it's going to be like 50 white and 50 a bunch of other people, mostly Latino and black, and then a bunch of other groups, right? But most people took it, and certainly the panicked rednecks in fucking the hills took it as, they gonna make us like we make black people. That sucks. So they reacted, like, oh no, I'm gonna be treated like I treat them. So obviously I can understand why you'd be scared if you were afraid you were gonna be treated the way you treat black people. Like, yeah, you kind of should be, I guess, but that's where that came from. So, but that was the conversation all during Obama. That was part of what they teed up, and then into Hillary. And it cost her part of the electorate. That idea, right? And real quick, the point I'm trying to make is that the group that voted for Donald Trump is only as big as they are and functional enough to become a turning point in this election. They literally, were pivotal in this election. The only reason there's a volume of them enough in this country is because of a more open policy to people who need asylum and the creation of, like DACA and those kind of things that have been more open. And then Donald Trump is going to round up those very people. They're going to try and get rid of birthright citizenship. It'll be do it first and then fight it in the Supreme Court while these people are stuck in a foreign country. He's going to round up exactly the people that handed him the presidency in all these different areas and throw them out of the fucking country and go. Because when they were saying Jews will not replace us in Charlottesville, when they're stomping around with those things, what they mean is, there's a big group of Jews that run the fucking Pentaveret or the Illuminati, and what they're going to do is get rid of white people and liberals and Christians in America because they hate us, and replace us with Hispanic workers who work under the table, illegal immigration. That's what they're talking about. That's what that meant. That's what Jews will not replace us meant. And the Great Replacement Theory, which is what Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump and all these people, and certainly Tucker Carlson. I mean, I was about to say they dog whistle it. He fucking is just going like, here, boy. Like, it's fucking, he's yelling for it. Those folks specifically are the ones who are going to be rounded up because he's the Latinos the Latino men in these areas. And it's not all to blame. Again, it's that they're the overflow that caused this to happen. There's a lot underneath it. It's not all their fault. But they were pivotal in a way that they weren't before. This decision to be pivotal in this and hand it to him was a gift to the Charlottesville marchers who want the very people that put him over the top out of the fucking country.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is I'm going to be listening. And you know what? Every single, when he says he's going to round up 3-4 million Latinos, well, think about that. 1.1 million in Florida, 1 million in New York, 400,000 in Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you really think about the numbers that he's talking about basically emptying. And once again, every single one of those people that are Latino and Hispanic that get rounded up, how did you vote? Because make no mistake, there are going to be people that are going to go, but I was supporting Donald Trump. Donald Trump don't give a fuck.
Right.
Donald Trump wants to get rid of your brown ass no matter what, because Donald Trump don't like you. He'll take your vote, but he don't like you.
You know, we talk about Clarence Thomas kind of overturning, interracial marriage in the country as a way of brooming his wife without having to divorce her. And there's an element to which, like I said, these are the escape ladder Latinos in some of these areas. And by the way, I'm only talking about that because at this point in history, they're the group that is the newest group. There were a bunch of people, Italians, Irish at one point, who wanted to pull up the fucking ladder after them too. This just happened in the 20s and the late 1800s, which is we just weren't alive then. Again, we're singling this out because of the moment in history and who it is, but not, me, I'm big on, non-monolithical groups. And I think we got to start talking to individuals again. Here's a thought. And this is, I've been kind of ruminating about this over the last, lead up to this. But I feel like we have been put into a reactive mode by MAGA and the Trump crowd because of their overt bigotry towards a group of people, Muslims, women, gays, Hispanics, whatever it is, Puerto Ricans, that they'll just lump everybody together. And because I truly believe you judge someone by who they are, not by the color of their skin, their nation of origin, their religion, or that kind of stuff, their behavior and what kind of character they have is paramount above and beyond all that other stuff. That's what I believe. But Democrats in that moment go, how can you talk that way about Puerto Ricans? Or how can you talk that way about immigrants? Or how can you talk that way about women? Or how can you talk that way about this whatever group? And yet at the same time, we'll talk about white women who didn't vote the right way or women failed. Like we talked about it, that language is very natural to everybody. We group back in response to this. But in our response to them, we can't parse out when they're like, they want to trans your kids, or they want men in women's sports, or men in your bathrooms. They're like, no, we don't. We want trans people to be able to live lives of dignity, and we want laws to protect those trans people from autogynephiliacs and people like the BTK killer who cross-dressed like his victims but was by no means trans. He took pictures of himself dressed in the clothing of his victims. That doesn't make him trans. And I can make that distinction. I am capable of holding those two thoughts, and that a trans person should be able to live in dignity, and just because this dickhead throws on an outfit from somebody he murdered and prances around in it does not make him trans. And he can't self-identify as a woman and walk in someplace and that kind of stuff. And we can have laws and rules about that still give trans people dignity and have a full conversation. But the problem is, when the right attacks them, they attack with this broad brush, and so the defense has to come with a broad brush. You know what I mean? You can't have a gray areas conversation when they are making black and white attacks. And that's what we're heading into with the next round of the, Trump, whatever it is. Because Latinos, he's not going to give a fuck if you're Cuban, or, one wet foot, one dry foot. Get the fuck out of here. Like, I'll tell you who's going to be able to sneak into this country. Russians that can afford plane tickets. They're going to be able to come over here and have an anchor baby just fucking fine.
Yep. Sad.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be a rough. It's gonna be a rough couple of years, brother.
Yep.
But what?
I
Like I said, we're not gonna stop. We're not gonna stop.
Nope.
We're gonna keep speaking out. We're gonna keep doing what we have to do. I don't give a shit. I'm ready to call out some people. I'm serious. I'm so livid that the fact that the DNC was handed over to Jamie Harrison, and that guy is not a fighter. Never has been. Never will be. And just we cannot win seats if we can't fight.
Well, there's another issue as well, because I think you win different districts through different methodology, right? That's the issue, right? I am not a big fan of using fight as a word in dealing with politics. And Donald Trump took that word and went fight, fight, fight. And Harris took when we fight, we win. And they're using that part of it. And yet none of it boils down to actual fighting, unless you count January 6th. We'll put that in another fucking pocket. But there's never been a boxing match in the world where they go touch gloves and come out legislating. It doesn't work that way. This is democracy. And what fighting really means is not getting on Twitter and yelling back and forth or any of that kind of stuff. That's not the fighting part. The fighting is getting up every day and doing the actual work. And all politics being local, you know, my commitment over the next couple of years is making sure that my sphere of influence, my actual sphere of influence, protects as many people as I possibly can during this time, right? And you know, not at the exclusion of people, but just that, you know, if I could pick up a broom, I'm going to do it in that regard, right? And that's different than, you know, we have been caught up into, I'm fighting. What do you mean you're fighting? I'm arguing online. That's not the same thing. And again, the TYT talks about fighting all the time. You know, Cenk's been a big, like, we need a fighter in office. No, we don't. We need somebody who can argue the point well with depth and make a good point and speak well. That's not fighting. And for me, that's genuinely like my goal in how I operate and how I do this stuff. And so Sparks 2028, there I said it. I feel better for having said it.
I'm down with that. I'm down with that.
Yep. But Harrison, I think, you know, he's a nice enough guy. I only met him once at Sexy Liberal in L.A. Or in Chicago. Very, very nice guy. But I also, and I think in many ways, and this is, again, I have no problem castigating the other group. The people who voted against me and all that kind of stuff, I can call them fucking stupid, and I'm fine with that, and I will continue. I'm not going to stop using the word maggots because I believe it. All that kind of stuff. It's not a problem. But in any situation where we ceded ground, where votes were lost from Biden and went, you know, that Harris didn't get, or what have you, and believe me, misogyny is a thing. Well, again, we'll put this over here because we're not going to solve that misogyny in this time being. But could we shave off votes in other ways? What can we solve is going to be my focus in that regard. I can't make large groups of young men give a fuck about the women in their lives. I already do. I don't speak the language of fuck these bitches the way the Trumps do. I don't.
Yeah.
It makes no sense to me.
Well, it just bothers me because Jamie Harrison has been in charge of the friggin' DMC since like 2018. And we're doing nothing but getting our asses handed at us in every race. You know, they're raising all kinds of money. And oh, by the way, understand that it's all about the money. When you become a member of Congress, they expect you, if you're in the House of Representatives, to go to the DNC and go upstairs to the second floor where you sit in a friggin' daggone little booth with a phone, and your job is to sit there and raise so many thousands of dollars every friggin' month for these people. They expect you to do that like 4 to 5 days a week. You know, and it bothers me because people are putting in the money, putting in the work, raising the money, and we're not even seeing nothing from it. If you're going to ask people to donate money to your cause, then do something. Win the fucking fight. Jamie Harrison isn't winning shit. We just fucking got our asses handed us. We lost the fucking Senate. We now have Donald Trump that is going to be taken over as the presidency. He's going to have the Senate and the House. He's going to have them in his pocket, and whatever the fuck he wants, he gets to do. And we can sit there, we can sit in the fucking cheap seats, and we can bitch about it, but it don't mean shit. What the fuck is wrong with America? Marge the Trainwreck Green, re-elected. Lauren Boebert, re-elected. Carol Miller from West Virginia wins her 4th term. You want to know why she won? She won because you had a fucking Democrat running and a goddamn independent running at the same goddamn ticket against her. And they split the fucking damn Democrat vote. Right. Because why? Because people are fucking stupid and nobody's willing to come out and speak the fucking truth. You know, I don't give a shit. There are certain places. Marcus Flowers ran the best fucking campaign in the last election. The best. Raised $30 million, did a great job. He was phenomenal. Fuck, as soon as the damn closed the damn polls, they announced Marge the Trainwreck Green. And here's why. Because no matter how amazing Marcus Flowers is, the people in that fucking area will never vote for a person of fucking color. And until people wake up and realize that, then maybe we got to fucking start thinking about putting good fucking people that can win these fucking races. And I'm not trying to say it's got to be Lily fucking White, but there's certain places in this fucking country where a person of color will not fucking win. Fact. Right.
Well, that's, I agree. And I think, again, Harris had misogyny and racism against her as she was ice skating uphill. Never mind the lateness of the campaign. That is absolutely true. That means, though, in those instances, having a real conversation about going, look, these voters aren't going to go for somebody black. These voters aren't going to go for somebody Hispanic even. They're not going to go for somebody, they're not going to vote for a woman in this area. And that's a rough fucking conversation to have in a room full of people. And when you have somebody who would, again, we have problems recruiting candidates anyways, always, and then you're going to exclude a bunch of people who are the activist class of the Democrats in a bunch of areas and go, you're the guys who get who vote for us. You're the guys who, carry the votes in certain districts and put us over the top. But we cede territory because those people ain't there yet. And I don't know if they ever, I don't know when they are going to get there, but the choice is this goes to that whole at least I went down swinging. Not really, right?
Yeah.
That's I'm more interested in, again, Gallegos would be a better example maybe, but some of the people who are 80% Dems who are in areas that might be socially conservative and lean this way or whatever, that were winning and staying in places, and we on the Democrat. And by the way, the Republicans did the same shit, and they've lost a couple of seats because of it, and that they won't get back, and they've had to see, they've ceded certain territory to Marjorie Taylor Greene. They got to deal with her, bullshit as long as they. She's just annoying to all the people trying to actually do something. She's been a pain in the ass, and she hasn't actually legislated fucking anything. Even her impeachment shit was thrown out by her own people. They deal with it on their side too. We deal with it on our side in those situations. That's a rough fucking conversation to have, but you got to start going, okay, let's post somebody who looks just like who they're posting and win the seat. And then we'll see if after a while those people are like, oh, they got good ideas, and I'm not so scared that they're going to turn this into a communist nation that I can no longer look past race and all these other things. Because I got to tell you, that C-word ad that they used against her, calling her a communist or her dad's a Marxist and all this kind of shit, it worked with a swath of voters and a bunch of them from South America, people who've come up here to avoid those kind of dictatorships and who got out of those kind of places. Whether it's true or not is immaterial. It's not. But it's a delivery system for that kind of shit.
Yeah. It's so frustrating. But once again, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board, and we're going to have to figure out the next step. I'm like you. I'm already talking with my people about starting to go around and maybe doing some speaking tours and things like that.
Yep. I'll go with you, man.
People up. Yeah, at the end of the day, I'm sorry. I don't give a shit. And I know I got family members that are scared. I've had family members call me and say, hey, look, man, we really want you to be safe. We know that this is going to get rough. I don't give a fuck. I spent 24 years in the military, and every damn time I got on an aircraft to go to Iraq or Afghanistan, I knew there was a possibility that I wouldn't come home. Make no mistake about it. Fighting over friggin' in Iraq is nowhere near as important as the fight that we have right here. Because over in Iraq, I was fighting for whatever. We didn't find weapons of mass destruction. It didn't mean jack shit. When I was in Afghanistan, I like to think that I was fighting for Hazara people because I love those people and they're amazing. But the truth is that the biggest fight we have right now is going to be in this country. And you know what? We are going to wake some people up. Some people are going to wake up because they're going to realize that their fucking daughter's going to die because she happened to get knocked up. And don't think, well, my kid don't do that, because every kid does that shit. It happens. It eventually happens to all of us. So, that's going to get people. When people start realizing that there's no more freaking overtime, when people start realizing that it's not a 48-hour work week, it's a freaking 160-hour work month, and now they're only going to work for 2 weeks. They're going to work freaking 16-hour days for 2 damn weeks, and then the boss is just going to bring in a brand new crew for the next 2 weeks, and you can go home and sit with your thumb up your ass for 2 weeks without being able to work because you've already done your thing. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of people out there that I know rely on overtime. That's all they do. Overtime keeps our head above the water. Social Security, everybody that you know, all of your elderly parents that are living with you that rely on Social Security, when that shit goes away, All of those fucking coal miners that got hurt on the job and had to file for early Social Security. I know a lot of people that got out of the military and are on Social Security right now. When they take that from you, I hope that if you voted for Donald Trump, you fucking look into the mirror and go, I did it to my damn self. And if you don't want to look in the mirror and tell yourself that, let me fucking know. Let me know, and I'll tell you that you did it to yourself.
Right. Well, that's the sad part of it, too, is that them looking in the mirror and going, oh, my God, what have I done, is still an act of self-involved bullshit. You have to be able to look into the face of other people you've done it to. The worst part about this, and probably what carries the Trump vote more than anything, is a bunch of people who don't believe, they aren't those Appalachians necessarily, and they don't give a fuck about them, and they're never going to look them in the face as they fall down the crevice that is their life. They're not going to do anything to make it right for those folks. Those people, they're like, nobody needs those people. They're a mess anyways. I mean, they're the same people who believe that, like, well, let's fix the fentanyl issue, but not so fast. Let it, maybe cull things a little bit. You know what I mean?
Well, let's hope that at least Donald Trump will finally let them pass the fucking border bill.
Totally.
It wouldn't surprise me if they don't tank that fucking shit, because they'd rather have children in fucking cages. So yeah.
Right. The Eisenhower's Operation Wetback deported 1.3 million Hispanics, Latinos from the United States who were here legally, by the way. These were people who had gotten effectively green cards, had either overstayed them or were part of like they built up these shanties where they could live next to these farm areas. And effectively, there are a couple of things about this that I think people forget. And this is the Elon Musk aspect that I think people need to recognize. So one of the reasons why Operation Wetback was like, time to send these fuckers home, is because farm equipment took a huge leap forward. This is 1954. This is not 1920. And these big threshers started being made, and you could do the work of certain farmers. But for the picking, which was a specific group of people, you didn't need people doing the hoeing work or the cutting work or pushing a plow. They had these giant threshers that started showing up on these farms. And because of gasoline and because of gas stations starting to spread across the country and reach everywhere, they went, oh, we don't need these fuckers anymore. So remember I talked about how, like, will AI replace a bunch of jobs and all that kind of shit, and how nobody whined when the fucking forklift put 4 big muscle-bound dudes out of a job because they don't have to carry the fucking pallet on their shoulder anymore. Now you can have 4 forklift drivers. That's how it was. Well, part of the thing that nobody talks about, and that was timely to 1954's Operation Wetback under Eisenhower, was these folks used to do all this work, and we don't need them anymore. That's why we talk about, even migrant workers, about picking the vegetables. Now, we don't talk about them farm workers. We talk about them picking, because that is the harvest time. It used to be they were here all the time. Yeah. And then they just started coming in for harvest time. When Hillary Clinton when they talked about her, wanting open borders, right? The conversation, the one line of hers, I think, where she was talking about open borders specifically, she was talking about people living in Mexico, coming over, working, and going right back, like basically a porous border near the farm areas, where they'd come in literally for days at a time and then go back home, right? Yep. Because they don't have to be here the rest of the time. Well, why is that? That's because farm equipment from 1950, I'd say 1938 to now has just gotten more and more efficient and more efficient. That is true of almost everything, right? And it's just going to keep getting true. And so part of why Elon Musk is lining up with Donald Trump to do this mass deportation of these workers that that everybody talks about, like, who's going to do these jobs, right? Is because his plan is to automate all of it. And that's what he's doing. It's the same shit with the farm equipment and Operation Wetback. We don't need you guys anymore. We needed the cheap labor the same way we needed like Chinese migrants or Chinese citizens to do like low wage work over there. once you get once 3D printing tools up to the point where you can do form fits and bang stuff out just on a seasonal bit over here, and robots are doing it, you're done. You don't need that other country, and that's why China's economy is failing. It's because the rest of the world is going, oh, that's all right. That's just a bunch. We can do that shit right here, and this is the same thing, right?
The only problem though is they're talking about killing the CHIPS Act now. That's bringing jobs from overseas back to America. I mean, literally, they're doing every damn thing to dismantle our country, and stupidity is allowing it to happen. So, let me tell you something. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy being on here. You bringing up the farm equipment and stuff. A lot of people don't think about that, but that's why I really love this show. Is every time I come on here, I leave a little smarter than I was when I got here.
I try. It's all I can do, man. From my little office. Yeah, and yes, go ahead.
We're going to fight this battle. I really worry about Ukraine. I really worry. I think they're going to shut everything down. I think that Russia's going to get everything that Russia wants from Donald Trump. It wouldn't surprise me if Donald Trump sends troops over there to help fucking Russia because it's Donald Trump. This is horrible. This once again. I mean, look, at the end of the fucking day, let's not fuck around. If this is going to be the end of the world, then let it fucking happen. Because goddamn, don't drag us around for the next 10 fucking years, only to fucking end it all then.
Here's the thing. Okay, so and by the way, people are like, it's over, we're done, we're done, whatever. Okay, Trump is just like in 2016. Trump is the dog that caught the car. He didn't want the job this time. He didn't want it last time. He looks fucking miserable. My concern is not him at this point because he will find some way to fuck up. Never underestimate Donald Trump's ability to fuck up a free lunch. He will fuck it up. But the people around him are the people we got to keep an eye on. Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, that kind of stuff, their access to classified stuff, that's going to be my biggest point of concern going forward. And this Operation Wetback 2.0 that they're going to try and put forward, right, is going to be, February of next year has the potential to be fucked up. And it won't be, by the way, for me or you, or anybody that is in, Elon Musk's crowd, even though he came over here and worked as an illegal immigrant. All that shit is going to happen to Hispanic Americans and Latino Americans. And unless I would say to anybody, once he's sworn in, if you are a Latino American and Hispanic American, carry your passport on you at all times next year. Yeah. Do it. Just always have it on you, because my concern is that they'll come up and go, hey, prove to me you're a citizen. Citizen's arrest. Where you're in Arizona, you're near the border or whatever, and a bunch of maggot sycophants just roll up and decide they're just going to drop you off in fucking Mexico and just go, yeah, you don't belong here. They kick you out, and when you try to come back in, you can't prove you are who you are. It's sad, but that's what it's going to take. Yeah. Right? That's what it's going to take. So, and again, they're not going to stop anybody from getting vaccines, for example. None of them are going to be mandatory, so you can't take them for granted. So if you're focusing on what's going to happen the first 2 years of the next Trump administration, plan on getting your fucking flu shot. And and make sure you're up to date on fucking measles and polio. Right, because these assholes are gonna just let this shit fly, and there are things you can do while you watch this, laugh while this asshole thinks he's caught the dog caught the car and he's stuck on the fucking bumper and it's still rolling down the street. He hated this. He hated it last time. His family's a wreck. And you could tell from his speech last night, he's out of his fucking mind. And J.D. Vance, if he were to take over, has no relationships to work inside the Senate even still. Yeah, and so Brian Caron from Press Corps is noting that people are saying telling her not to concede because there was ballot shit going on in Pennsylvania, and she has not yet. She has not conceded.
I hope she doesn't.
I hope she comes forward and says we will. Just hold off until every vote is counted. She goes, I will concede if it shows that the final vote count points our way, but we are going to hold off until every vote is counted. Just do that. I'm okay with that.
Have you ever had Brian Kareem on your show?
Yeah, of course. He and I are both from Kentucky.
Okay, yeah. Me and him are on Stuttering John all the time, and I mean, he's always phenomenal. So, yeah. Well, brother, let me tell you.
Yeah, I love you.
Let's stay in this fight, man. We're here, bro.
Yep. Absolutely. I appreciate you more than you know, and I can't wait to see you again. And you and I and all of us of our ilk, everybody in the audience that's watching right now, we got you. We got you.
We're gonna be victorious. It may not be this month, may not be next month. It may be 2 years from now, but we will be victorious.
There was a time when women didn't have these rights at all, and we know that they've been taken away, but there will be a time when they get them back. This shit ain't over. Right. Yep, they absolutely will.
Yep, it's going to happen.
I weep for the cost, but not for the effort.
Yep.
And that is, and so you guys know we'll both be here for it. So thank you so much, Major, and I'll see you again next week. And we'll just keep soldiering, my brother. It's going to be a weird 2 months.
Let's do it. All
Absolutely.
Right,
all right. Cheers. Thank you. And I should pop in the chat room in this. Hi, guys. So I'm going to, sorry, I want to get the chat. There you are. Okay. Yes. Chat room's up. Hi, everybody. How are you? I know how you're feeling. And I understand it because of the same reason I told you about COVID. I knew Trump was going to be a fuck up and mismanage this thing, and it cost tens of thousands of lives. It's a tragedy. And this will be too. But every generation faces some kind of a tragedy, and we're not alone in this. Nobody gets to skip history. Congratulations. You live in interesting times. And I will say, I feel bad for calling it. Of course I do, because there are a lot of moving parts in it that seem like madness to me, and I'm glad that doesn't fit in. Indeed, I was wrong. Yes, I was wrong. I was wrong about the count and wrong about the vote turnout. We'll see if ultimately Pennsylvania goes the way I thought it was going to go. There's something wonky there, and we'll see if they can remedy it. If not, the reality is that we can vilify those people on the other side of the political spectrum, and I will mock them incessantly because that's a good use of my time, right? But if there is something we can take away from this that allowed someone who was drunk to get the keys to the car, and that's on us, it's our responsibility, right? If there's some part we played in it, that's where we've got to start having a broader conversation. You saw part of it this morning, like Morning Joe and others. I think Chris Matthews said some shit about this, about like the trans issue and women's issues, and and some of like the Palestinian, the pro-Palestinian / pro-Hamas people on college campuses and the like. The right wing are still smarting over Black Lives Matter, and they level it. They equate it with Jan 6. And so, I get it's not on us, but we bear some responsibility. I always feel, okay, let me phrase it this way. Here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to focus on. Here's what I'm going to do to commit to like better communicate my ideas, is that there are times when, and I admit this would be the primary failure I would admit on my side. And you see it come out, or sometimes I can't hold it back. And I love Tara, but she'll come on the show. She's probably the person that I've had the most arguments about, is that when we respond to racism and bigotry on the other side with racism and bigotry, that's on us. That's on us. You can't say it's bad to vilify black people and Latinos and Puerto Ricans and the like, and then say white males or whatever. Especially when, again, where did they have an edge voting for Trump than him? Yes. Did all of them? No. And you lose. I will completely cop to standing by during conversations about Trump and his ilk, where that comes up and people start shitting on white males without college degrees in their 50s. of which I am one, and being quiet about it and wincing, knowing that it hurts my feelings, but I get it and I can weather it. But I have a lot more self-awareness, and I am better with this kind of criticism than most. Does that make sense? And part of the reason why I wince when I hear it is because I know there's a big chunk of people that go, I was on your side. What the fuck? Right? And there's a lot of that. There's a lot of that. I guarantee that, like, all the white women that voted for Harris happily, right? Proudly, when the news starts talking about what white women did or didn't do, they wince a little bit. And they go, hey, I'm on your side. That's a lesson we can take from this. That answering racism and bigotry with racism and bigotry doesn't work ever. There's another way of looking. You're welcome to my guilt. It's not guilt, by the way. Somebody, what was that? Hold on, it went by. You're welcome to your guilt, Hal. I don't feel any responsibility to spare a maggot's feelings. You're not, Alexis. You shouldn't. I'm not asking you to spare a maggot's feelings. I'm asking you to spare your allies' feelings. Yeah, try being a Texan. That's the same kind of thing, right? See what I mean? I'm not asking you to not vilify the white women that voted for Trump and sold their rights down the river. I'm just saying it's not because they're white women, because there were white women that voted the other way. And it's not a monolithic thing. And it's wrong to act in those kind of racial monoliths because it's bigoted. Does that make sense? Are they really allies? I don't know. Do you think I'm really an ally? I mean, that's a good question in the chat room. Do you think I'm on your side? Because I feel like I am. I work very hard at this, and I care very much, and I don't just do this, right? I've been volunteering for years, Project Angel Food, marched in every AIDS walk, right? That kind of stuff. Right? Rubber meets the road with me, right? I do what I think is a valuable service within the skill of what I do. When I'm 85 and I just can't come up with any more jokes, I'll build houses like Jimmy Carter. But right now, this is what I can do, and this is what I can add to it, especially the activism that I do and how I vote, all those things. And when somebody says stuff like that, when they go, even I would argue the conversation about the patriarchy and blah, blah, blah. I grew up in the 80s when the real women forward movies really started showing up in the late 70s. You know, when you're talking about like Sophie's Choice and Silkwood, all the great works of Meryl Streep and the like, and then in the 80s, I mentioned Secret of My Success the other day, and there's two very strong women characters in that I loved. I'm always amazed too when I will talk to somebody about female representation in Hollywood, and I'll go, do you know who Gail Ann Hurd is? And they'll go, no, and she's only probably the single greatest sci-fi producer in history. Have you seen Alien? No. That's the issue that I have, right? Do you know who Gertrude Bell is? Those kind of things. Like, I can't know that shit. Well, you know a bunch of other stuff. It's obviously taking up hard drive space, okay? So, point I'm trying to make is, if it's wrong to be racist when they do it, it's wrong to be racist when we do it. And we got to be better than that. We got to be better in our language. Because it gives them permission. They always talk about how Trump would talk about, like people would talk about Trump, like Trump gives racists permission, right? He gives them permission to be their worst. So do we when we talk like that, right? I posted earlier today that, the one thing I did not see coming, I truly did not see coming, was, Latino men voting for mass deportations. That's a very peculiar statistic to me. But at no point, because that was the voting bloc that pushed it over the top in a couple of areas. But by no means would I approach, it's these fucking Latino men that got us here, right? It's absurd. Because there is no monolith in that group. And so you've got to start talking to people like people. And Republicans during the last few years especially have seized on, that's why Glenn Beck says shit about Trump being Martin Luther King, content of your character, not your feelings, and why they've attacked DEI using the words of Martin Luther King Jr. And it's not just because they seize things that aren't theirs. We hand that stuff over when we don't actually check ourselves in those moments. Okay? You don't feel, somebody said, I don't feel like you're lumped in with them. It doesn't matter. I am. I don't want you to feel like you're lumped in with them. I am lumped in with them. I am a straight white male. I am a father. I am in my 50s. I do not have a college degree. I am a gun owner, right? I eat meat, right? All those things. And I voted for Harris and Walz. And I voted for Joe Biden and Harris. And I voted for Obama twice. And I voted for Kerry and Gore and Clinton and fucking Dukakis. And so when somebody starts talking about me as part of that, I mean, because you can't, maybe that's it. Maybe this is a better way to put it together. That whoever you're talking to, whatever their personal traits that are their permanent personal traits, their sex, their disability, their body shape and the shape of their nose, the shape of their head, their hair or lack of hair, okay? Their race, their color, their creed, their national origin, all those kind of things. All the things you can't change about someone. Once you start vilifying people based on those kind of characteristics, where does it stop? I'm not blaming us. I'm trying to fix how we talk about this so we don't give them a tool that they use to bang somebody over the head with. Because to me, a hammer is a valuable tool that you can use to drive in nails. To them, they're just a fucking toddler smashing everything within arm's reach. It's still the same hammer. And if I'm saying it's okay to walk around hitting shit with a hammer and they're indiscriminate, part of it's me for bringing the hammer. Okay? Yes? And not taking better care. This is not about blame. It doesn't have any value. How maybe don't lecture us on race. I have one, and I'm not lecturing you on it. I'm lecturing on how to talk about stuff. I'm lecturing about communication. Does that make sense? That's something I think arguably I can say that I have a skill, yes, Ed, in that area, right? Okay? So, anyways, and by the way, you don't have to agree with me on it. You don't. You can be mad at what I'm saying. You're allowed. Okay? You're allowed to disagree with me. You're allowed to misunderstand what I'm saying. It's okay. It's all right. I'm good with that because I can take it. And I do have awareness, though, is that I spend a lot of time being in command of my emotions. It's what I do for a living. It's what acting is. It's also that stoic optimism that I have that's genuine to me, okay? It's how I really am. I don't gussy it up just to like, okay, time to pretend I'm all right. Like, it doesn't work that way. It literally is natural to who I am as a human being, okay? And some people over the years, and I'll leave you guys on this, and I will be back this afternoon with my show. But I want you to consider this. Sometimes, especially when I do jokes about controversial stuff back in the day, okay? Somebody would come up and say either, one, well, that's just your opinion. And I would go, of course it is. I'm not going to go on stage and tell you someone else's opinion. That's not how that works at all. And secondly, some people would say, that's easy for you to say. No, we'll have, Phil was on last night twice, so we'll let Phil have a break. They'll say, that was easy for you to say. And to them, I say, yes, that's why I'm saying it. Because there's a lot of people that feel the way I'm feeling or believe what I believe, and it's very hard for them to say it. And you can judge for yourself whether what I'm saying matches up with that reality or not. That's what conversation is. That's what agreement and disagreement is. And that's, to me, what being a Democrat is. Right? And by the way, I'm not acting as if someone's like, you act as though this will be over in 4 years. It won't be. I am by no means acting as though it will be over in 4 years. I am actually trying to make sure that everybody has all their faculties available to them in the future as things go forward, instead of just being a wrecked mess and reacting in lizard brain. Does that make sense? And nobody is making you believe me or think the way I do or any of that stuff. Not a person. You are absolutely welcome to think I'm full of shit and this is cope or whatever. You're totally allowed. Yes? I'm giving you permission. You know why? Because I know why I'm doing it and I know what I'm doing. And I always have, because I'm a Gen Xer who grew up afraid that the Russians were going to nuke me in elementary school. And every week we hid under our desk, to hide from nukes. Right? And every party I've ever been to that was really fun happened after that. Right? Remember, during COVID, what were they telling us? No one's going to shake hands anymore. And here we are. They're going to be vaccine passports. You won't be able to go anywhere. Right? The Republicans bought that shit. And it didn't happen. It's not going to. And are there going to be really awful things he does? Of course they are. But I want you and everybody I know to have all their wits about them when it happens, so that every option you have, as opposed to fight or flight, is there, okay? That's what you need. That's what I believe Stoic optimism is always about, right? People are going to lose health care. Yes, they are. They absolutely are. Women are in danger, and women are going to lose their lives because of this. It's going to be terrible. But I don't want my EMT crying while they're trying to resuscitate me, and I don't want you guys who are going to be responsible for helping right this ship to be broken while it happens. Does that make sense? I want you to have every available part of your wits about you for that stuff. There you go. So that's my thoughts on it. Yeah, you can panic. It's okay. It was a huge trauma. Nothing wrong with that. The ACA will not be gone. They don't have a replacement for it.
I found some web results.
Thanks.
I can show them if you ask again from your iPhone.
That's okay. Thank you. I don't know why sometimes she just listens. So, and you don't have to fight today. You're good. You don't. Okay? And it's okay to panic today. It's okay to be stressed today. It's okay to ride it out. Don't run from that feeling necessarily, but don't ruminate. Just let it play itself out. Okay? And I'll be here. And if you can't take it and you're like, fuck this dude and whatever, that's okay too. I'll tell you something nobody else on these channels will tell you. You have no responsibility to me to watch, hit the like, support the show, any of that stuff. You don't. You be you, and the nice thing about this thing is I'm here. And when you're ready to come back and you feel like you're back on your feet and the haze is starting to clear, I'll be here for you. Because it's just the kind of guy I am. Also, I'm running for office now. Let's just be honest. Come on. I was being nice before. I was deferring to other people and going, well, I won't do it this time because, I'm being nice. Not anymore. Just saying. I think it's about time for me to just go I've joked about Hal Sparks being the most Hal Sparks there ever has been. And lately that's been a little thing I've been playing with, and the whole greatest internet live stream. I am now more committed than ever to making that the case. Okay? This is the next 4 years. One of the ramifications of this whole thing is that this show and I get on the map in a way they weren't counting on. This is just how it's going to work. Yeah. I'll see you guys later. Love you, CSL. Love you, Andrea.